I am very close to developing the cure for vanilla disease. Ever since the evil genius Anil released this disease throughout the world by infecting vanilla beans, so many have suffered, but I'm so close to finding a cure. I have developed the serum known as SahiLife, which I think has the antibodies that can bind to the antigens associated with vanilla disease and destroy them. But I need to test for the presence of these antibodies in the serum, so I have to utilize ELISA. First, I have to label the microtiter plate, which has many wells. Some will be control wells and some will be experimental wells. I have carefully extracted the vanilla disease antigen solution from my dear brother, who is affected from the disease. I will add the solution to each well and incubate this plate for 5 minutes at room temperature. This will allow for the antigens to adhere to the plastic in the wells. When the incubation is done, I will remove the antigen solution from the wells and wash the wells with PBS buffer, which I will remove as well. This will wash away excess antigens. I now have to add a protein-containing buffer to block the wells, to prevent specific interaction between the antibodies in my SahiLife and the plastic.
Wait!
I've worked too hard for you to ruin my plans now. I will not let your supposed cure ruin my plan to bring madness to the entire world. I will stop you and destroy that cure before you can prove it works.
The power of bio!
Dr. Sahi, I'm a man, but I just took a pregnancy test and it was positive. What do I do?
Well, okay, I'll tell you. When you urinate on the stick, your urine travels up 3 zones of the stick, where the stick is trying to detect the presence of HCG, a hormone produced in the earliest stages of pregnancy. In the reactive zone, AB1 antibodies locate any HCG hormones and bind to them. In the test zone, AB2 is another antibody that binds to one of 5 binding sites of HCG, creating a sandwich. This leads to the dye-activating enzyme, which is attached to the antibodies to activate, creating a visible pattern that can notify you if you are pregnant. There are other sources of HCG that can create a false positive, like uterine cancer and testicular cancer.
You're not pregnant, you just have testicular cancer. Oh wait, I gotta go.
Time to get to work. Now I have to add my reagent, SahiLife, to each of the wells using a fancy micropipette. I now have to incubate this plate for 15 minutes at 37 degrees Celsius. If there are antigen-targeting antibodies in my solution, then they will now bind to the antigens that are in the wells. In my controls, I will not add my reagent, but a solution I know that does not have the antibodies I'm hoping to find, like water. I have to remove the liquid in the wells after incubation and wash the wells with PBS buffer once more to remove excess antibodies. If the antibodies have not bound, they will wash away.
Wait!
You may have gotten away once, but I won't let you get away again. Oh my eyes!
The power of acid!
I was just about to eat this peanut butter, but I was wondering if there's a scientific way to test for allergens since I'm really allergic to peanut products.
Okay, fine, I'll tell you. Well, ignoring the obvious that peanuts are in peanut butter, you can use ELISA to test for food allergens. ELISA methods detect the actual allergen protein molecule by binding antibodies to the allergen and then using an enzyme-linked antibody and colorless substrate to create a colorimetric change that can be measured. However, this method is not suitable for cooked or heated products because the protein molecules are denatured or broken down and the allergen is no longer detectable. Go, ELISA! Back to work. Now I have to add 100 microliters of the secondary antibody to each of the wells, incubate for 15 minutes at 37 degrees Celsius, and wash with PBS buffer. These enzyme-linked antibodies are capable of reacting with the constant region of other antibodies, so if the antibodies have bound, then these secondary antibodies will bind to them. Now I add 100 microliters of colorless substrate solution to each well, which is designed to bind the enzyme-linked antibodies when incubated at 37 degrees Celsius for 5 minutes. If the dye molecules are activated and there is the development of color in the well, then that indicates the presence of my antibody. Yes. Time to check the results! This is the moment of truth for humanity!
Wait! That plate is mine!
Come and get me! Oh wait, no. Yeah, he's unconscious. Time to check the results for real. It worked!
So just to recap what we learned about the indirect ELISA assay technique today. The ELISA technique is used to test for antibodies. The technique involves the use of a microtiter plate, which has multiple wells. The antigen solution is added to the wells and incubated so the antigens can adhere to the plate. The wells are then washed with PBS buffer, which removes excess antigens. The reagent with the potential antibodies is added and incubated in the plate. If the solution does contain antibodies, they will bind to the antigens in the well. Secondary antibodies are then added, which will bind to any antibodies that are bound to the antigens. Next, a colorless substrate solution is added, which will show a change in color if there's a presence of antibodies. ELISA can be used for multiple purposes. It is used to determine antibody concentration, screen monoclonal antibodies, test for viruses such as HIV, West Nile's viruses, and NDV, test for pregnancy, and test for allergens in food. A technique called sandwich ELISA is used for pregnancy tests. AB1 antibodies locate HCG molecules and bind to them. This activates the enzyme that allows for a visible symbol to form to signal pregnancy. Viral antigens can be detected using this method by adding a second antibody. The ELISA method can be used to detect allergens by binding antigens to the allergen molecules. ELISA is a useful technique because either the presence of antigens using indirect ELISA or antibodies using direct ELISA can be evaluated by this test. Thank you for watching the video.